Hello, I'm Casey Kalini, reporting for bakeryandsnacks.com live at IBIE 2013 in Las Vegas, and I'm joined by LSanders, Senior Vice President of Government Relations and Public Affairs for the American Bakers Association. Now, Lee was part of a panel discussion earlier today that looked into the legislative and regulatory issues and trends impacting industry, and we're here to find out a bit more about what was discussed. Okay, so Lee, possibly the first obvious question, US government is in shutdown right now. How is that impacting bakers and industry?
Casey, that's an excellent question. Because of the shutdown, a lot of the federal workers aren't there, so that means there are less inspections, if inspections at all. Allergen recall notices aren't going out. It's very impactful, and we need to make sure that consumers get the information that they need.
Okay, and so more broadly speaking, what is the legislative and regulatory environment like for bakers in the US right now?
The atmosphere right now is very intense. There's a lot of pressure for new regulations on industry, and certainly that impacts the baker's bottom line. So the American Bakers Association works with our policy committees to form consensus positions to respond to these government proposals.
And what are some of the exact issues in terms of regulation and legislation that are really hitting them right now?
There are so many issues. We have not even a full plate, but a full platter of issues. There's 63 different issues that the American Bakers Association is tracking and monitoring. And then we have top 10 issues where we really focus in on what's happening right now. I think commodity volatility is certainly an issue, food safety, sustainability. There are a lot of positive issues going on, positive opportunities for bakers, but we also have to look at the other issues and how to work through them with science and rationale.
And thinking more from a nutritional standpoint, it's interesting to note the National Academy of Sciences Institute of Medicine launched its report on sodium intake back in April, and they recommended that really that daily allowance guidance should not be lowered because the science just isn't sound enough. What's the American Bakers Association's stance on that?
We agree with the Academy. We think that they shouldn't make changes to the recommendations in the dietary guidelines for 2015 until they fill those science gaps. But not only would the recommendations be important because the dietary guidelines is the basis for any nutrition policy for anything else that goes on in the United States. So any changes for revisions to the dietary guidelines as well as the nutrition facts panel, all those would need to be based on new and current recommendations and sound science.
When it comes to sodium reduction, I mean, this is something that the bakery industry has been active in for many, many years, but perhaps you could take us through really what's going on for industry when it comes to sodium reduction.
Well, bakers are always very responsive to their customers' desires. And so as customers have been interested in the lower sodium, certainly bakers have responded. And we did a marketplace analysis over the last 2 years and found that bakers have lowered sodium overall about 6% in breads and 4% in sweet goods.
Okay, so Lee, is there anything on the horizon that's set to really impact and hit industry when it comes to legislation and regulation that the bakers need to know about?
Yes, well, certainly with the Food Safety Modernization Act, that's a big issue for the bakers. Since that legislation passed, we expect that the Food and Drug Administration will come out with about 52 new regulations and guidance documents. That's a lot of paperwork. It's important for the American Bakers Association to formulate their consensus positions, and we look at what will work and what won't work for the bakers.
And just to finalize then, what action has the American Bakers Association taken on the potential changes of nutritional labeling?
Well, we've been very proactive this year, Casey. Back in January, we went and met with high-level officials at the FDA and led a group of food industry organizations in talking about the potential changes, how we wanted to partner and be a resource for the Food and Drug Administration as they work through any changes that we could see. Certainly, prominence of calories is something that's been talked about. The SOFAs, the saturated fats, the added sugar, and the sodium, those are all things where we expect to perhaps see a change in the daily values, and that certainly then could trigger the criteria for health claims. And the health claims could then, if that's changed, then people may look at their formulation and need to change that. So it triggers a number of changes that could impact the baker's bottom line.
So it seems that industry has a lot coming up that it needs to sort of take heed of, and the American Bakers Association is going to be very involved with them. But thank you very much for giving us insight on that, Lee. Really
Thank you,
appreciate
Casey.
that. And thank you for watching this Bakery and Snacks video live from IBIE 2013. I'm Casey Kalini.